Right, I think we're live. Had a bit of a kind of trouble getting on live, but we are live. Welcome to F1 Fanatics and welcome to the race live reaction. We have obviously just seen the Hungarian GP. It has been another dominant win by Lewis Hamilton. Is there really any surprise on that front? But Max Verstappen with a brilliant P2 and Valtteri Bottas in P3 rounding off the podium for today. I'm just going to quickly tweet that we are live for the kind of race live reaction stream here. Well, thank you for kind of watching. If you are watching, then on our usual kind of race live streams, I'll run through the finish order from kind of 20 to 1, and then we'll kind of talk about my thoughts on the race. And as always here on F1 Fanatics, we'll get involved with you guys in the comments and kind of chatting with your kind of thoughts here. Hi to Sam O'Gara in chat. Thanks for coming on, Sam. Just going to tweet that we are live, guys. So give me 2 secs on that one. But a brilliant race. What a race. I'm still shaking. I mean, as a Kevin Magnussen fan, getting P9, what a race that was from K-Mag. Certainly will be one of the performances to talk about. Okay, should be going live. Let me see if I can get the link up for that interesting thumbnail. I don't think that's quite worked. Share. Sorry, just watching me on here. It was great for Kevin. Thank you for kind of sticking with us. Just let me get that front. As always on a F1 Fanatics live stream, we are a little bit slow on that. But anyway, Hungarian Grand Prix. There we go. I'm with you. We're live. Hi, David Xavier. Thanks for coming in. The order isn't final just yet. No, I believe Alexander Albon is it on penalty. He may be disqualification, so it might be as good as 8th, obviously, for Kevin Magnussen, or anyone who finished below Alexander Albon could potentially be going there. Only Max could crash before the race start P7 and end up P2. Absolutely, Dion and Troy. That was something else from that. Can't believe Bottas didn't get a penalty. I can't believe either. It was a clear jump start. And I'm pretty sure Kimi Raikkonen, was it in Suzuka last year? It was in one of the Grand Prix last year. Even though Kimi Raikkonen jump started, stopped, and so lost any advantage from a jump start, he was still penalised. I think it was a 5 or 10 second penalty. So I'll be surprised on that front if he doesn't get a penalty. Craig Taggart, thanks for coming into chat. Well done. We'll see how you're doing on fantasy. Obviously, we're still in the top 5 as of last week. Kimi in Russia. That was it. Thank you for clearing that one up, David Xavier. But anyway, we will give our run through of the order as it currently stands. But obviously on live stream, if things change, we can react to it as an if when. But only one retiree from the race today, and that was Pierre Gasly. Poor Pierre Gasly is not having the best of luck with his car this season. Managed to scrape it to P7 in race 1, even though he had brake issues from early on in the race. Struggled with a poor strategy and I think rear wing damage in the second race in Austria, and today had to kind of retire the car, even though he qualified incredibly well to get into Q3 yesterday. So really disappointing weekend for Pierre Gasly. 19th was Nicholas Latifi, and a bad day at the office for Latifi. Several times off the track, unsafe pit release kind of buggered his race when he got a puncture from a collision with Sainz, and it didn't really recover from there. George Russell, after a fantastic qualifying performance in P12, ended up in P18. Giovinazzi and Raikkonen in 17th and 16th, respectively. Not doing great on that one. My cat was so gutted that Gasly DNF'd. He's a huge Gasly fan. He smacked me and sprained my wrist. Oh, brilliant. A go from there. Driver of the day should be Verstappen's race mechanics. Absolutely on that front. Back to the running order. Grosjean only could manage P15 while his teammate managed to get into the points. Esteban Ocon in P14. Lando Norris P13. I think he got stuffed in the pit stop rounds. He had to be held back and lost, I think, about 7 seconds in the end. Really struggled on that front. Daniel Kvyat P12. Charles Leclerc, P11, finishing outside the points with his tyres really dropping off a cliff at the end. Carlos Sainz being the first driver to make it into the points. Kevin Magnussen, as spoken about already, in P9. A brilliant race and a brilliant call, actually, from Haas to kind of be on the slick tyres. Start from the back, but obviously they got a whole pit stop ahead of everyone. So that was a very impressive strategy call from Haas. Daniel Ricciardo, P8. Pretty good race from the Australian driver there. Sergio Perez, P7. Had a really poor start and never really recovered from the race from then on in. Sebastian Vettel, P6. Alexander Albon, P5. Lance Stroll, P4. Bottas, P3. Verstappen, P2. And Hamilton winning that race. Like I said, that is provisional as it stands, as there might be subsequent penalties to drivers post race. Not good. I have Perez and Russell in some of the fantasy teams go from there. I brought Kevin Magnussen in for this week in fantasy. I thought I'd do it, and what a great call that was for fantasy wise. But wow, I think the first place what we've got to start off with the race was what a chaotic start that was. Starting on intermediates, the Haas with Magnussen was the only one on full wets. Then they went round after the formation lap, started the race from the pit stops after lap 1 and 2. Everyone was kind of pitting. I think Max was the last one to pit on lap 3, and then had managed to work his way from 7th. But by the end of the first round of pit stops, had managed to work his way up to 2nd. There was collisions in the pit stops. There was chaos and carnage. I don't even really know what kind of happened in terms of positions. There, Valtteri Bottas had a terrible start. Both him and Perez dropped like a lead balloon through the field. Bottas with the jump start didn't get penalised for it. Like we compared already in the chat, that Kimi Raikkonen got punished for a very similar incident in Russia. So I'm very confused if Bottas doesn't get punished for that, because it was quite a clear jump start, even though he didn't gain any advantage from having a jump start as well. Alexander Albon potentially can get disqualified or a 10-second penalty. They're not sure where it should be go on there, because like I said, Abhi Pandya in the group, JB in the group was going. The mechanics were drawing his grid position before to try and obviously give Alex Albon a better start off the grid. That didn't happen. Anyway, it seems a little bit... I don't know, with how many cameras that there are about in Formula One, why they would think that they could get away with that. It seems weird. Maybe it's punishment for the public comments that Albon made there. But I think one of the performances we've got to talk about in this race, Max Verstappen crashes on the installation lap. And it's luckily he's only briefly done it, but he looked like he'd buggered his front left suspension, lost his front wing. The mechanics are frantically, I think they did it in about 20 minutes or maybe 15 minutes. They managed to fix his car, which was an incredible turnaround. Had an amazing start, and then drove a brilliant race and split the two Mercedes, which is incredible. And again, at Hungary, he's lapped his teammate, Alexander Albon. So just an incredible level of performance. Obviously, it was Pierre Gasly last year in Hungary in his last race in the Red Bull. Just, I cannot believe how good a race Max Verstappen had. And JB was saying he was crapping himself when Max crashed for his fantasy team. But he's going to do great in fantasy, starting P7 and finishing P2. He's going to get the overtake points as well, beating his teammate points. It's going to be brilliant. Red Bull mechanics are like the Audi Le Mans mechanics. I mean, yeah, the Red Bull mechanics, their pit stops again were incredible. I think they nailed a Verstappen pit stop at a 2 seconds flat, which was a massive one to kind of probably in keeping him ahead of Valtteri Bottas at the end, because Valtteri Bottas was all over the end of him at the game. Josh, welcome to the chat. Albon's living on borrowed time in the Red Bull seat. Unfortunately, I think we'll talk about that. Now, I don't want to be right about Alex Albon. I don't want to say that I don't think he's got it and be like, I told you so. I really want him to do well, but man, he's not making it easy for himself, certainly like that. The Mercedes again, Lewis Hamilton sets a new lap record at the Hungaroring, wins for the 8th time, equaling well, obviously extending his lead for most wins at the Hungarian and equaling the record for most wins at a single circuit, equaling Michael Schumacher's record, and just again led every lap. Pretty much. I think, yeah, the only laps he didn't lead again were when he pitted before Max Verstappen. And you losing words to kind of describe how dominant it is. And I think the worst thing it was as soon as Bottas made that jump start and had a poor start, I think everyone just went, well, that's any chance of a race fight kind of gone out the window, because the only car that can match that Mercedes is the Mercedes of Bottas. And it was not a great track for Valtteri Bottas, and he wasn't able to overtake Max Verstappen on the medium compound. He had to pit for fresher tyres on hards, then couldn't chase him down in the 20 seconds. Obviously, we saw what what Hamilton did to Verstappen last year, but his teammate wasn't able to go from that. PC Andy, Ferrari are trash now. They may be trash, but Sebastian Vettel pulled out a very good performance for me in that Ferrari today. Charles Leclerc indeed was kind of buggered on strategy, because as soon as he went on that soft compound tyre on his first stop, yeah, it was always going to be a difficult race for Charles Leclerc on that one. But should we be surprised? Ferrari have got a strategy call wrong. You know, if there's one thing you can kind of guarantee in the turbo hybrid era for kind of F1, it's that Mercedes will have a quick car and Ferrari will probably muck up a strategy call. But Jessica, I have to run, but just wanted to say, get in there, K-Mag. See you later, Katie. Obviously a great performance. So I have a quick mention on that. Kevin Magnussen's performance and Haas's performance. I was thinking, and that's why I made the call on fantasy to bring Kevin Magnussen in. Kevin Magnussen last week finished P12 with floor damage, and the Haas seems the opposite of last year. It doesn't have any qualifying pace, but it actually does seem to have genuinely quite good race pace. But its result was inflated today because both drivers went on to the medium tyres before the start, which essentially gave them a free pit stop because everyone else pitted 1 lap, 2 laps later, where, you know, at the start of the race, on genuine position, we had the Haas's running 3rd and 4th in a Grand Prix. And, you know, we haven't seen that ever, have we? I don't know. I think 4th and 5th we've probably seen, but I don't know if 3rd and 4th on genuine position we've seen that. Did you see the Latifi interview pre-race? I didn't actually. What happened on that front? Go from there. Driver of the day, Max's mechanics. I think a lot of, Max certainly owes a lot to his mechanics for sorting out that car going into it. I'm glad I got rid of Gasly for Ricciardo. I think that's a great move in fantasy in terms of there. Raikkonen is miles ahead of Gio in race pace. Absolutely, I think so. Definitely on that front. I think Gio is one of those drivers actually looking on borrowed time, especially with what Robert Schwartzman's doing in F2 and Mick Schumacher. They're at least going to have one of those guys come into the Alfa Romeo seat next year. And as Gio holds the Ferrari seat, he's not exactly... It's going to be difficult for him because that Alfa Romeo car is awful. It is getting to Williams levels. Well, it's the only car that I don't... Did anyone see what happened to George Russell? He just dropped like a lead balloon at the start and then go from there. Despite his difficult race, I still feel Latifi was the best of the race. Yeah, absolutely, Josh. Nicholas Latifi, definitely the best rookie on there. Did anyone else notice Hamilton checking out Max's car post-race? No, but Hamilton does tend to check out rivals' cars quite a lot. I think he was probably checking his front left suspension because he was probably in awe of the fact that he's managed to finish P2. I mean, I think this all goes... it's not going to happen because Mercedes won't upset the ship, but you'd love to see Max Verstappen fighting Lewis Hamilton in that other Mercedes, wouldn't you? I mean, that would literally be Prost versus Senna again. That would be incredible going for them. Williams performed really well in qualifying, but they just can't seem to translate that to race pace at the moment. But it's still much better steps forward to where obviously they were last season. Give me 2 secs. Tara's meowing. I've got to let her in. Get out of here. And I'm back. Sorry about that. Hot take, but I think Lewis might win the title this year. Oh, Sam, but there. I mean, is anyone else just ready to give Lewis Hamilton the title now? And maybe the Racing Point looks more competitive, and it looks a more competitive field having the 2019 Mercedes. So can we make sure that Mercedes race in their 2019 year again? Car again? Can we do that? Can we force them to race in that year to make it a more competitive championship? Maybe. Lewis is just absolutely cruising it. It's just absolutely brilliant. But yeah, Ferrari looked better, but they've gone for a more downforce setup. Vettel is drove the pants off the car today. I definitely think, and still those Ferrari powered cars aren't doing great, but it's not quite as bad as it's initially thought. But yeah, there aren't many low downforce setups or tracks to come on the calendar, it would appear so far. There's a lot of high speed tracks to come. So that's certainly just going to play into the favour of Mercedes absolutely blitzing it, because no one for me can compete on their level of a power unit. If Mercedes races its 2014 car, they'd just still win. I don't think things are that bad, but yeah, to go from there. Who doesn't go well today? I'm presuming that Afonso Chocas is. Who did I think didn't go well today? Alex Albon, first one. Sergio Perez didn't go well today. Roman Grosjean had a poor race. Giovinazzi, poor race on that front. Those are probably the main 4 that come to mind. Yeah, K-Mag got in the points, Fergus, and he scored 2 points in P9, but obviously Albon retrospectively could be punished. Albon did not do well because he finished a lap behind his teammate. I'm not having any of that. I don't care if he's come from 13th to 5th. He finished... He's finished 2 spots behind his teammate and a lap down. That going for that. Grosjean had a poor race is about as common as Lance Stroll jokes in my videos. I think Roman Grosjean is gone. Last year he had the mechanical failures there, but he is just not happy with this Haas car. And Kevin Magnussen is really kind of hammering the nail home in kind of Grosjean's coffin. Haas are going to change their driver up. Who it is for next year, I've no idea. But it's certainly, I would happily say that, or I'd happily predict that this is Roman Grosjean's last year in Formula One. I think it's now gone. The gap in performance. Last week, he finished behind Kevin Magnussen with a damaged floor. This week, Kevin Magnussen has managed on the same strategy to get his Haas car into the points. And Grosjean has finished in P15 comfortably outside the points. And had one more pit stop than Verstappen. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure in terms of the points you're trying to make on Albon there, Fergus. Did he really have an extra pit stop on Verstappen? Well, I suppose he did, but he's still not. I mean, a pit stop, he's still finishing about 40 seconds behind his teammate and probably still getting lapped. Grosjean should have been gone a long time ago. I'm not sure a long time ago, but the 2018 season showed signs. I just don't think Haas and Roman Grosjean are a good fit. At the end of the 2015 season, Grosjean was still a very good driver and in a very good position. But him and Haas just haven't gelled together. 2016, 17 were decent years probably for Grosjean, but every year since 2018, despite obviously Haas finishing 5th in the Constructors, it has been a steady decline and go from there. Albon had one more pit stop from Verstappen, but like I said, he's still finishing about 40 seconds behind his teammate, and I'm sorry, that's not good enough. I'm not having my mind changed on him having a good race today. Gasly has been super unlucky with his car. Real Ben Holmes, definitely. Gasly is really unlucky because his qualifying performances have been brilliant, especially the last two races, and he's been unlucky. He really is driving the kind of hell out of that AlphaTauri. I mean, you just have to look at the qualifying performances. Kvyat could only manage P17 in qualifying yesterday, and Gasly managed to get it into Q3, which was going from there. I miss the podium robots. Real pull a dampener. I mean, I think everyone misses the podium robots. What's this kind of normal podiums returning? Who wants those back? Everyone wants the podium robots. Go from there. I think I can see at least 2 more teams moaning, Craig Taggart. Is that in relation to the Racing Point car because of how good Lance Stroll was? I think we've got to give credit here. A lot of people obviously have a go at Lance Stroll, but he hasn't been in the best of machinery in his racing career. And this is the best year that he's had in a this is the best Formula One car he's had in his career. And he's certainly proven competent to me. He made some good overtakes, I think, during the race in terms of positions early doors. I think it was on Charles Leclerc, wasn't it, that he dived into turn 1 and made the good overtake and then just maintained the gap. Obviously, he was never going to be competing with the Mercedes. And Verstappen was driving on a different level, but finished ahead of Alexander Albon, finished ahead of Sebastian Vettel. I think Lance Stroll and finished ahead of his teammate. I think he had a very good start and had a very solid race. So I think credit where credit's due just on that one. Norris was also struggling. What's his story? For me, I think I picked it up right. Both McLaren drivers obviously struggled on the pit stop because Latifi was unsafe pit released into Sainz, which obviously led to Latifi's thing. But everyone went in, I think, on lap 2. And I think Norris got held up to not be unsafe pit release. And I think they said that he lost about 7 seconds in terms of their Lance Stroll in the chat. I agree, of course. Thank you again, obviously, Lance, for joining us in chat. Very nice of you after finishing your race that you can jump into our live stream. Thank you on that one. Stroll's drove well this weekend. Hope this isn't another one-off, though. I hope so. I hope Stroll kicks on and does do well. Stroll had a great 2017. Williams was just pretty poor that season. 2018 was a crap car, but he did decent. 2019 was okay car. He wasn't really fast enough. 2020, I think he is good in that car. I think so. Yeah, fair enough. New team as well, and obviously that Racing Point for the first half of the year last year wasn't competitive. It's now a competitive car, and you're seeing the results of going there. Charles was struggling too. Charles, in fairness, he was a little bit stuffed on the strategy. Like I said at the start of this stream, Ferrari, when they pitted, Charles Leclerc, I think, was the only driver to go onto the soft compound, and his teammate Vettel went onto the medium compound. And Charles Leclerc then had to pit much earlier than the guys on the mediums, which meant that the hard tyres that he had at the end of the race fell off a cliff. And he was basically just dropping places, which allowed, obviously, Carlos Sainz. But he held up Carlos Sainz enough that allowed Kevin Magnussen to secure P9 in the championship. What do we think of McLaren's race pace, actually? I think McLaren have a very quick car, but I don't think they have a quick car in the race so far. I do actually believe, in the hands of Daniel Ricciardo, that the Renault is quicker than it, but that might just be because of the level of driver that Daniel Ricciardo is getting that performance. Again, probably has to be said, another disappointing race return from Esteban Ocon. I don't think, obviously, a lot of people were thinking that Ocon would take the fight to Ricciardo, but at the moment, the difference is night and day in that aspect. You know, he's nowhere near Ricciardo in race pace. In qualifying, I think it's closer, but in race pace, Ocon is really kind of struggling. But it's probably too early to go Ocon. He is getting the rust off it. It's going to be interesting to kind of see going from there. Oh, dear, Maldonado. Oh, no, look, Pastor Maldonado's He looks like Australian Valtteri Bottas. Just out of interest, where does Letterhead name come from when you refer to Grosjean? I don't know in terms of that. No idea. I presume that was someone in chat. 143 points in Fantasy League. Norris and Gasly hurt my score. Yeah, definitely would have gone from that. Hi, Liam. Thanks for coming on. Got banned from Streamlabs for being 12. Oh, Liam, poor lad. I'm sorry about that. Maybe don't do it on Streamlabs. Maybe just stream directly on YouTube. I don't think there's an age restriction on that front, going on that front. Where did Schumacher get his 8 wins? Yeah, I think it was France, wasn't it? It was Magna Cause, wasn't it, for Mark Schumacher? Hi, Haley. Thanks for joining the chat on that, bro. Going on that front. But, hey, unbelievable. I think we had all the action at the start of the race, but I think as the race went on, we kind of lulled into it. There were some good overtakes and thing. We kept on being kind of teased with that radio message. Albon's was the one that was like going, we're expecting rain in 9 laps time, or we're expecting rain in 8 minutes time. And then the rain never materialized. It went south of the circuit, I think. So, yeah, definitely didn't have a good... Yeah, definitely didn't influence the race on that front. But does anyone see Valtteri Bottas mounting a serious title challenge after today? I know Silverstone is another Lewis stronghold. With Valtteri Bottas, he could have won the Silverstone race last year if strategy didn't muck him up. But yeah, can anyone go from that? Esteban seems to be off the pace of Danny. Yes, he does. Question for me. Thoughts on the Hungarian circuit? I like it as a technical circuit, and I think it adds something different. In terms of overtaking for modern F1 cars, I don't think it's great. I think we saw in the F2 and the F3 races in smaller and more nimble cars that there are a lot more overtaking positions on Hungary. And yeah, I think it could be a very good circuit, which I believe the 2022 cars are meant to be a little bit smaller in terms of that and more streamlined and more robust. So maybe potentially Hungary might be a track that massively benefits from the rule change in 2022. I think with the current regulations, other than turn 1, and the DRS zone maybe round the outside of turn 2, you've only really got 2 corners to overtake at Hungary. So for racing, it's maybe not the best, but I like it as a circuit. I think it's a challenging technical track for drivers. I think it does lead to very good qualifying laps, like we saw from. I thought qualifying was very good there yesterday as well, and I thought both the F3 and F2 races there were brilliant this weekend, both in the feature races and sprint races. But F1, I think it's the problem with these modern cars. They are too big, so it then makes overtaking very difficult. It's also the best on the F1 games. The Hungary game, if you're driving it on the F1 game, it is a brilliant track to drive. Spain is a strong Bottas track too. Sochi as well. Bahrain, he's also very strong at if that joins. Correct. He does have those tracks. He does have those kind of tracks in the bag. But the question is, once Lewis Hamilton gets a lead in a championship, I think he becomes too difficult to handle. I think Bottas's only chance is trying to win the Silverstone rounds and leading Hamilton after Silverstone. I think I'll go. I may triple up on Bottas in Japan. Interesting one. Goes from there. I think I saw a question on the Unsphere. Question from Mike and everyone. How do we feel the camera shots were today? I was a bit frustrated that when Albon and Vettel were fighting on track, we missed that battle. We were watching something further down the field. They are trying to give more airtime to cars further down the field, but then they are missing midfield action that goes from there. They're getting a lot better. I think, in the coverage of the race, but it's still a little bit like, it's not the best still, but it's still all right, definitely on that front. I actually don't really like Hungary on the game. Tracks like Suzuka, Silverstone, and Interlagos are my favourite. I hate Suzuka on the game. It's such a challenging circuit. It is brilliant. Silverstone's definitely my favourite, though, on that. Haas had a great strategy. I was really confused about one of the drivers on wets on the formation lap, but they pulled it out the bag. I mean, by making a terrible decision by putting Magnussen on full wets, they actually made a masterclass decision that worked out from there. All we saw of the Gasly retirement was him in the pits. Not sure. I actually not sure. What was Gasly's retirement in the end? Was it just his engine failed? Was it just an extension of what happened? I've just seen Sam's comment below. Serious question. Why is Lewis on 40 million a year when Grosjean, who is an equal talent, is? Oh dear, you know, when Grosjean makes a comment like that, it's a bit like when Nicholas Bentner for Arsenal came out and said that he's as good as Ronaldo and Messi. You know, those type of comments always come back to hurt you. Now all you need is Roman Grosjean to be trying to break into his own house and to be punching a taxi driver and have a prison sentence, and that'll be kind of his art complete after those comments. His engine was on fire, I believe. I mean, that definitely would be an engine failure. Not as good. Actually, thoughts on Liam Lawson in the F3 feature race yesterday on his best impression of Back to the Future in terms of lighting up his oil behind him. That was a great shot. Not great for Liam Lawson. That was a brilliant shot on that one. Why isn't Jolyon Palmer still in F1? I look at you in terms of you're trolling me now in the comments on that one. Jolyon Palmer wasn't good enough for N1 for net. I can't believe you hate Suzuka on the game, Mike. It's definitely my favorite. But that's just me because I'm always slow at Suzuka. So I hate it because I'm not very good at it. As a track, Suzuka is brilliant. And 130R is an amazing corner to drive flat out. Definitely on this one. Definitely some interesting comments on that. What were your thoughts actually from the race, guys? Were there any kind of standout performances? Lawson should have done better to get off the line. Clearly, his car was leaking oil. And I think so. I'm not sure on that one, Haley, in there, but his car, he didn't blow up at the start. It was a couple of laps into it, go from there. Strongest race on the game other than Spielberg. I think Austria is everyone's strongest track. It's one of the simplest tracks to learn and nail on that front. I think everyone has a very good spot on Austria in there. But just see Carlos Sainz getting interviewed now. Decent probably from him. The first time that he's beat Lando Norris this season. Not a great. What are thoughts? Obviously, I did a poll last week that we've had the first couple of races, and everyone was convinced to me. Everyone, I think McLaren won the poll by 68% that they think they're going to get third in the constructors. I mean, I don't think it's going to go. I don't think they're going to get third in the constructors on that front. I think it's definitely going to be Racing Point or Red Bull. Definitely probably Red Bull on that front because of the performances of, Red Bull getting second. Unless Racing Point get their kind of, if the protest is held up, then obviously Racing Point are out. But the only way I would see McLaren finishing P3 in the championship over the course of the season is if, because where their race pace is genuinely if Racing Point get thrown out. Otherwise, I think both Racing Points have too much to go on that front. Williams is making great progress in free practice and qualifying, but race pace still lags behind. Why? Lack of reliable equipment. I don't know on that front. I haven't heard anything, reasons of explanations, but potentially on that could be tyre temperature. I know obviously Haas last year were fantastic in qualifying. Well, not fantastic, but they had some fantastic qualifying performances. But in the race, they couldn't get their tyre temperatures up. Maybe Williams are struggling with that, or maybe they just struggle to kind of keep optimal performance over a sustained period of time. They can get the tyres in a very short window and do a very good one lap, which is obviously what we saw from George Russell yesterday. but I don't think they can, over the course of a race, kind of maintain that level. What did you make of the big screen, whatever it was in the last 3 comments? Looks a bit mad. It was bizarre, especially it was bizarre to see Nico Rosberg cheering on Valtteri Bottas, going, come on! Certainly was a good bit of kind of editing on that front. On there, I think it's a bit weird, but I get they're trying to get fans involved. It was kind of a little bit of an afterthought. It just kind of seemed a little bit something weird, and they go from there. I think Renault will protest the race result again, probably. If they're going to just keep kind of putting in or adding the protests on with Racing Point using them until it's cleared, I think they'll kind of protest every race so that every Racing Point result will be brought into question. Yep, in terms of fantasy, exactly what JB is saying. If you guys have got Hamilton or Bottas in your fantasy team and you haven't used your Mega Driver, wait for the 5th Grand Prix, because unless they have reliability issues in the first race in Silverstone, they are absolutely going to be cashing in on those race and qualifying streaks, which means it's a plus 15 points, which means if you use the Mega Driver, you're going to get, it's triple points, isn't it, for the Mega Driver? No, it's double points, isn't it? So, yeah, definitely. Actually, it might be triple points. Confirm for me that one in that chat. Sergio Reindorf, I doubt Bottas would have given Hamilton any trouble today, even without botched start. Last year, with 20 laps to go, Hamilton fresh, just down to Verstappen, Bottas, not so much. I think so. Look, a lot of people were talking about Bottas, obviously, beating, well, I think it's now 2-2 over the time Bottas has been in that Mercedes seat in qualifying between the two. But Lewis is so good at the Hungaroring that the best Bottas probably could have hoped for today was P2. And I would say it's definitely a damage in his championship fight that he wasn't able to get P2 today. It was a brilliant, brilliant drive from Max Verstappen. I don't think it can be praised enough. You know, Lewis was dominant as ever, but Max Verstappen, definitely my driver of the day. It'd be interesting to hear what you guys think on your drivers of the day. Ferrari should hire Haas strategists. I'm maybe not sure on that front. I think I think Haas just got a little bit lucky that they botched Magnussen. Then we're like, screw it, we'll do both teams. And it worked out massively today. Go from there. I had Merck in for this weekend. Great shout. I told you, you've got to have Mercedes in your fantasy team as your constructor. Build your thing around there. Turbo is double and only 20 min. Mega is times 3. Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely what you need to go there. Getting back to Bottas and whether he can mount a challenge, he needed to get the boot in early. You can't afford to give Hamilton any amount of opportunity. Absolutely. And he has to win at least one of the Silverstones, and the lowest position he can finish in Silverstone is second, and he must win at least once to keep the title challenge going forward. Otherwise, if Lewis Hamilton wins both Silverstones, I mean, I'm pretty much already at this stage. I think last year at Hungary, we said that Lewis had wrapped up his 6th world title. I mean, we're 3 races into the season, and I'm quite happy to say that Lewis has wrapped up the title at Hungary again. Obviously not points ways, but I don't think Bottas, Nico, the difference, a lot of people, I've had this discussion recently of some people trying to say that Bottas and Nico Rosberg are on the same level. For me, Nico Rosberg was miles ahead. Not miles ahead, but he was a better driver than Valtteri Bottas because he was a fighter. He pushed, he gave everything on the limit, and he could actually fight his way through fields as well as leading Grand Prix. When I see Valtteri Bottas, the way that he was trying to get past Charles Leclerc, today, looked up, dropped back, had to go past, had the medium tyres, but he probably stuffed his medium tyres because of that lock-up early in the race. Pitted again, 20 seconds to go, couldn't overtake Verstappen. In that position, Hamilton gets past Verstappen. Bottas needs to at least match what Hamilton would do, and he needs to better it. And at the moment, he's just not doing that, so I can't see him mounting a serious game. My driver of the day has to be Verstappen just because he crashed his car and still did bits. I mean, it's mental. It's absolutely mental that literally 5 minutes before the race, there were mechanics all over the top of Verstappen's car because he'd been hitting over there. K-Mag or Stroll should have got driver of the day, not Max. I could argue K-Mag. Stroll, I don't think so. I think Stroll had a very solid race. I wouldn't say he was unbelievable in that performance because the Racing Point was clearly faster. I think Stroll had a good race, a very good race, and Perez had a poor race for me. Go for now. Tonka Troy, Rosberg was always underrated. Yeah, I definitely agree on that front. Definitely go for there. Seb, driver of the day. I mean, Abe, I know you're a Ferrari fan, so that was always going to come in favouring the thing. But I do think Sebastian Vettel, because of where that Ferrari is, I do genuinely think that P6 is a very good result for him. And at the moment, it could still be P5. I don't know. Has anything come out? Is Albon under investigation post-race? Or anything for the kind of drawing of the grid spot? I don't know on that front. But Sam Regara, Latifi driver of the day. Well, not sure driver of the day, but definitely rookie of the day from there. Absolutely, JB. I think that sums it up perfectly on that front. But I'm still trying to think in terms of performances. I really don't know on terms of that. Kvyat kind of, I suppose, was solid. What did he finish? P12 in the end, was it, for Daniel Kvyat? I think that's probably a pretty solid return for the Russian driver. He, again, just is doing okay. I'm going to say I don't think that Honda power unit, I don't know, maybe it's not the Honda power unit. I mean, AlphaTauri are a B team, and the other teams, Racing Point, McLaren, Ferrari, obviously, and Renault are all ahead of them. So it's difficult from that. Thank you, Fergus. On to 1.25K. Thank you for everyone who subscribed and joined the channel. Very appreciate on that front. Thank you for that. If you are new around here watching this stream and you do want to kind of subscribe to the channel, we do quality and live reactions all the time. I'm going to head off. Great talking here. See you later, Sam. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Thanks for kind of joining in the chat. Hope you've enjoyed the weekend's racing in the F1, F2 and F3. Kvyat wanted to pit for slicks after the formation lap and the team said no. Exactly. If the team didn't say no to Daniel Kvyat, he definitely could have had a good race from there. Red Bull have been called to the stewards at 5:15. Thank you, Haley. Very useful information on that front. 5:15, I would assume that would be. So maybe not for a while. It might be one of those kind of late decisions to decide whether Red Bull and Albon will be disqualified. I think Kimi would be frustrated by the end of this year and will leave. What are your thoughts? He can't be happy. He loves racing, but that Alfa Romeo, I've said it before, looks awful. It really does. And I don't know where they're going to find pace from. They've got a Ferrari power unit, which isn't a great power unit. Their whole car setup doesn't look great from that. I don't see Gio staying at Alfa Romeo. Even if Kimi retires, I can see Ferrari and Alfa just going double Ferrari juniors and going Mick and Robert. I can honestly see that. If I think Gio's gone, and yeah, I mean, Josh has said it in the chat. I think genuinely it's definitely going to be Schwartzman in the Alfa Romeo seat because I think he will win the F2 championship this year. Well, he's had a very strong start to the championship. Obviously, he's still got plenty of time and plenty of races ahead with problems that can happen. But he looks the one nailed on for me. And Schumacher, I think, has been very unlucky in the early rounds, but he's shown over the 2 Hungary races that he is a very talented guy as well. If Kimi goes, then I think it just means that it'll be an actual. It'll be double Ferrari Junior rather than Gio. And yeah, debate Caterham should be back in F1. No. Definitely that. I'm trying to figure out some more points to go from the race, because it was one of those races where everything seemed to happen in the first 5 laps, and then after that, it was still a very enjoyable race to watch, but it just kind of mellowed out, and everything kind of mellowed to position. I mean, what are your thoughts on Ferrari? Obviously, Vettel, they had the difficult situation that their driver that they've got a long-term contract is being beaten by Sebastian Vettel. That's not necessarily great on that one. GA maybe to Haas if the whole Seb to Aston doesn't happen. I really can't see Checo going to Haas. I really hope that Checo doesn't go to Haas in terms of if that move does go through. I'd love to see him in IndyCar. I don't want to see him go around in the midfield, and maybe he brings Haas up to be a competitive team for the next generation to come on. But Checo's career, man, deserves more. I would put, Fergus has said Checo to Red Bull. I would put Checo in the Red Bull if they can't get Sebastian Vettel, because they need an experienced driver along Max Verstappen. They've got to act like a top team. Mercedes have had in their time of dominance, Rosberg, Hamilton, and Bottas. That's experience there. Ferrari, when they were performing best in the turbo hybrid era, and they've had Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel was the experience. With Charles Leclerc coming in, Charles a special talent, and it goes on there, and obviously the car develops on that, but it's still experience. All go from there. I think Haas needs someone like Checo, finances, pace, and experience. I think Haas, it would be a brilliant move for Haas, but I'd hate to see it for Checo, is what I'm saying. Tonga Toy Truck, is Ocon's career over? No, I'm going to hold judgment on Ocon at the moment. I didn't think... Look, he's been out of the sport for a year. It's been a very difficult start to the Formula One season. I didn't think that he would compete with Daniel Ricciardo. Early signs are he's not competing with Daniel Ricciardo. But let's give him to the end of these first 8 races to kind of really see where Esteban Ocon's race pace is. Just talking about Karun Shandok in the chat. Oh, Karun, he's a brilliant pundit, actually for the technical side of things. I would say Karun is a very good pundit in terms of that front, and a very good member of the Sky team. Williams, I think we spoke about their race day. I'm thinking Alfa Romeo, we've spoken about it. Haas, we've spoken about. Grosjean, kind of disappointing, but brilliant performance by Kevin Magnussen. Really, I think, really needs to kind of go from there. McLaren's, their pace in the race is a little bit worrying, because I did think, we said it in our race review podcast with me and Stephen, that the last laps have kind of, and the circumstances that have developed at the end of races have played into McLaren's hands, and they've nailed their strategy to capitalise on situations, go from there. But I think the McLaren drivers have been open and honest about it, that their race pace isn't great at the moment. You'd back McLaren to improve that going on through the season, and especially with a Mercedes engine in the back of that car next season. Going for that. Worst pundit ever on Sky? God, that's a good question. I don't really know the answer to that one. I can't really think. They usually have pretty good guys on that one. I'm not sure on that one, Fergus. I'll leave that to the chat to disguise on that. Seb has a pretty good chance for both Red Bull and Aston Martin. Fair enough. Well, is Crofty really... I was going to think that, JB, but is Crofty really a pundit? He's a commentator. He's certainly not a commentator in the likes of Murray Walker levels, but I think it was always going to be hard to find someone like that. But I'd much prefer to have Alex Jacks in the commentary box, but he does a fantastic stuff with the junior series. I just mute the volume when Brundle opens his mouth. Look, Martin Brundle, I think, isn't everyone's cup of tea, but there's no doubt that the bloke really knows his stuff about Formula One, and he really kind of gives some informative discussion. I thought Brundle and DC were actually a very good combination of commentary team when they were on the BBC, was it, together? But yeah, that was good. But it's just something about Crofty and Brundle. It doesn't. It's something a little bit lacking, I think, in the comms team at the moment. And if people aren't completely sold on your commentary team, you can definitely improve it. So you think with McLaren today, it was more the track didn't suit their car, maybe? You think Silverstone? See, that's the thing. I think we'll have a better idea after Silverstone, because Austria was a quicker track. Hungary was a kind of more high downforce track. Silverstone is a quicker track as well, but obviously downforce is still important through, was it Sector 2, I think it is. It's Magazine Beckett's a Sector 2, I think, on that front. But yeah, I think we've got to hold off on McLaren, but I definitely would back them to improve through the season, their race pace, because they're a very good team, I think, at the moment. Kahari Emeli, welcome to the chat. Do you think Bottas had the pace to battle against Hamilton if that start wasn't on it? We discussed that slightly earlier in the stream, Kahari, but no. Would be the simple one, I think, on that front. I just, Hungary isn't a great track for Bottas in the race, and it's a really good track for Hamilton. I think by the fact that Bottas wasn't able to finish ahead of Max Verstappen in the race proves to me that, yeah, Valtteri Bottas wouldn't have had what it takes to beat Lewis Hamilton in this race today. Where was Perez today? Didn't see enough of him today. I just think he had a poor race. He dropped like a lead balloon at the start. I don't know if he had any trouble or damage. In those kind of changeable conditions, he's not great, but there wasn't any rain, so I don't know. There just wasn't. Obviously, in Austria, he was flying pace. Maybe the setup wasn't quite right. He was dizzy, wasn't he, in qualifying yesterday? I don't know if he wasn't feeling too great today. Hopefully that dizziness can be a sign of COVID, so hopefully that's not early signs for Sergio Perez on that front. Hopefully it was just dehydration or something like that. But yes, I'm not really sure what Perez's performance. It might have just been a bad day at the office. Brundle, though, has a massive crush on Hamilton. He gets aroused when he watches Hamilton on board. Yeah, but I think most F1 fans, if you just watch Lewis Hamilton as a driver, have a bit of a massive crush on him, because the man's incredible. Like, we're just witnessing race after race of world-class talent. And unfortunately, because it's sports and how things manage to maximize winning, I would love to have seen Max Verstappen in that car alongside him this season, because that would have been one hell of a title fight. Unfortunately, again, the Red Bull aren't on that level. So it's just that Bottas is the only hope. It's too early to probably write off Bottas this early, but yeah, it just doesn't look good for them. To be honest, his onboards are really awesome to watch. His cornering speeds are incredible. Yeah, I mean, look, come on there. Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest to do it of all time, and I think it's difficult because as race fans, we want to see competitive racing. We want to see different race guys winning races. We want to see competitive championships. We want to see championships going down to the last race. But Mercedes have built a world-class car. Lewis Hamilton is a world-class driver. And Red Bull, Ferrari are slacking in their development. They can't compete with Mercedes, and it shouldn't be Hamilton or Mercedes' fault that they can't do that. But admittedly, they're going to get a boring kind of tag on them because they are so good and they win everything, and it's not great as a competition to watch. You know, nobody likes to see the same person winning over and over and over again. But the blame really has to fall on the other teams, notably Ferrari and Red Bull, because look, this isn't like a couple of years of Mercedes dominance. It's been the turbo hybrid era since 2014. We could genuinely go through our entire rules regulation going into 2022, where Mercedes have won every single championship, which I believe would be the only time in a sports history that that's happened. Might be wrong on that one, but it's certainly the most dominant period ever. I'm a new fan to F1 living in Washington, DC. That Garrett Broder. I plan to attend the USGP as soon as fans are allowed. Any tips for the best possible experience? Paddock passes, anything else? I mean, if you've got the money for paddock passes, yeah, incredible in terms of that. Generally pick a good corner to watch action at and a good corner that has TV screens at. Just trying to imagine COTA. I imagine the start pit straight is probably pretty decent because it's just got the gradients on it. Sorry, you just get me thinking about trying to remember. If there's a grandstand that can watch the S section through COTA, obviously at the start of Sector 1, I would definitely recommend trying to get some seats to watch the Grand Prix there. I think that they would be fantastic seats, certainly to watch the US Grand Prix. Or actually, COTA has that big stand. I mean, if money's no object, I'm pretty sure you can go and view things, but that would be proper VIP stuff. But that would be brilliant to watch the race from that kind of almost little tower where they go from there. No problem, Garrett. But yeah, definitely make the hotel reservations as far in advance as possible because they get sold up. And also hotels, as soon as they realise it's Grand Prix weekend, bump up the price on that front. Mercedes this year car should be banned. They should compete with their 2019. I did joke about that at the start of the stream. It would make the championship a lot there, but geez, Mercedes, they're incredible. Go from there. And we'll try and win the F1 Fantasy or get a 10 out of 10 on F1 Play and get paddock passes for free. I mean, yeah, that's definitely the way to do it, but it is incredibly hard to do either of those two things. That's for sure. Let me plug in. Obviously, we're approaching the hour mark. Thank you for kind of staying on chat. I think we've probably covered everything there is to do in the race. So unless anyone's got any other questions, burning questions they want us to talk about today or just F1 in general, we'll be back obviously tomorrow at 6 p.m. for our driver ratings, full race review podcast where we kind of look at things in a little bit more detail. And obviously we'll know about any subsequent penalties and that. Afonso, what's my team? If I'm picking one team, it would be Ferrari, but I'm generally a pretty neutral guy in F1. I just like seeing good races and great performances. So, like, I won't be upset if Lewis Hamilton has a great performance. I won't be upset if, like, Max Verstappen has a great drive today. I'm very much on that type of thing. So, if I was to choose one, it would be Ferrari, but I don't really have a team when it comes to F1. Supporting Arsenal is enough heartache for one sport fan, definitely on that front. Latifi spins better than Seb. Oh, Abby, that's cruel on the rookie. Go from there. But yeah, time really does fly. But yeah, anyway, guys, if there's no more questions, like I said, driver ratings coming out 6 p.m. tomorrow. Full race review podcast comes out Tuesday. For you fantasy guys, there will be the fantasy review coming out on Wednesday, 6 p.m. And then obviously there'll be it's a break obviously within Grand Prix. We've got a week break and then the double header, another triple header. So we'll be having an F1 Worldwide return next Saturday and also an interview with Bart Horston, a British F3 driver coming out next Sunday. So make sure you kind of tune in and check out those as well. What's your favourite track you've been to? I've only been to 2 UK tracks, which is Silverstone and Brands Hatch. I love Silverstone, especially obviously for the Grand Prix experience, but I think Brands Hatch is a great one. But I would have to go Silverstone. I do love that. You go. What's ones I want to visit? I want to visit Monza because I think that would be amazing for the Tifosi. Spa, I want to visit on that front. I think that would definitely be a great track. Interlagos as well. I think Brazil would be a brilliant racetrack to go to, basically kind of like the classic F1 circuits. I think classic F1 circuits are the best circuits. Go from there. And I'd also, strangely enough, people will laugh at this one because of what the racing's like, but Abu Dhabi at Singapore, I want to go for the night race. That looks an incredible race to attend and to watch. But also Abu Dhabi, everyone I've heard about says that's an incredible race to attend. So I definitely would kind of want to go from there. Money no object, get an RV and sit in the midfield. Decent on Tonka Time Truck. I presume that's for the US Grand Prix on terms of that front. And those people who support Liverpool Mercedes, lucky them. They're having a great time, aren't they? Liverpool Mercedes fans. But yes, I think that is it on the questions front, guys. So I'll probably round up the chat. Thank you for everyone who has obviously communicated in chat, joining us on live stream, everything on that front. It's been brilliant kind of having you guys along. It was brilliant reacting to another race. F1, it's just so good to have it back. It's another great race, I think, in terms of that. It won't go down as a classic race, but there was certainly some very good racing within the performances as well, and some amazing kind of standout performances that are always enjoyable and interesting to watch. But thank you so much. If you are new around here and you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Really do appreciate kind of all the support that you guys give. It's brilliant on that front. But yeah, that's it from me today, guys. I hope you've really enjoyed the live stream. I've loved it with you guys. So for now, UF1 fans, keep racing.